I am the king, 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 king. I am the king, 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 king. I am the king, 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 king. I am the king, 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 king. I am the king, king, king.
This is episode 13, Kings of the Village, broadcasting live from around the world and into your internet. We're talking Candace Owens once again. Her 18-minute video received 87 million views. I will explain exactly why and what she had to say, but I will tell you this. It is disturbing. She calls George Floyd a common thug and criminal. Her words, he's no martyr, no superhero. We'll be talking about that and all the comments next. It's all live on Kings of the Village, and plus, you will hear the post in its entirety. The Kings of the Village starts right now.
I am the king and will not be. I am the king and will not be the king and will not. I am the king and will not.
Welcome into the Kings of the Village. I'm Stephion, riding solo once again. Nico shall return this Friday where we'll have a special interview. You don't want to miss this. But today, you can be a part of the conversation right now at 816-266-9447. Or you can always stream us, download us at iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast, and always Kings of the Village at yahoo.com. Man, Candace is wildin'. She's wildin' out, y'all. I'm telling you. If you have not heard this, what she had to say about George Floyd, I'm telling you, you don't want to miss out on this, because the way she talked about him, the way she described him, is quite disgusting and disturbing. No matter what this dude did, no matter his background, did he deserve the treatment that he received? Now, I will say, and you'll get to hear this in just a moment. I just want to set this up for you. She did say, oh, well, he didn't deserve to die. And I don't think that was her premise of the video. The premise of her video will be as such, that she doesn't think he's a martyr, that he shouldn't be uplifted as such. But in some of the comments I'm going to read, I think you will get the just why it's happening. So to Candace, if she would just step back and get out of her own way, she would understand why the world is coming to his aid, why he is being celebrated. It is not about him specifically. It is about him being a vessel for the movement. That's why he is being celebrated. That's why he is being uplifted. It is not about him specifically. This is bigger than him. So let's get to the video, or the sound for you, the ones who are not watching, the ones who are listening to it. And I'll let you listen to it in its entirety so it can make sense to you. And then we'll talk on the other side of this.
Very heavily on my heart and on my mind as well, and it was something that I wanted to say early on, but there were so many emotions and so much pressure for me to go with the popular opinion about who George Floyd was, and sometimes it can be difficult when there are just so many external pressures to say what you believe. And this was an instance where I felt like my silence would have been better in the beginning, but the more that I think about it, I realize that we are being sold a lot of lies, and at the detriment to the Black community, at the detriment to the white community, and at the detriment to America as a whole. So I want to come out and say that I do not support George Floyd and the media depiction of him as a martyr for Black America. I'm going to explain why, and I hope that some of you guys will understand where I'm coming from. I have spent a considerable amount of time reading a lot of Black authors that I think are some of the most brilliant Black Americans breathing. Walter Williams, Shelby Steele, Thomas Sowell, and I recently came across something that was an idea that was planted into my head by Shelby Steele, and it has been something that I cannot forget. It is something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. And it is something that I hope for the Black Americans that are watching will stick with you for the rest of your life. Shelby Steele said that the Black community is unique from other communities. Our culture is unique from other communities because we are the only community that caters to the bottom denominator of our society. Now, let me explain what that means. It means to say that not every Black American is a criminal, not every Black American is committing crimes, but we are unique in that we are the only people that fight and scream and demand support and justice for the people in our community that are up to no good. You would be hard pressed to find, a Jewish person who has spent 5 stints in prison, who commits a crime and dies while committing a crime, and that the Jewish people champion and demand justice for. You will be hard pressed to find this in white America. You'll be hard pressed to find this even in Latino America. If there is a person that is spent multiple times in prison, you are not going to see a bunch of Latinos coming out demanding justice for this person, even if, and I want to be very clear, what I'm saying is not any defense for Derek Chauvin. I hope Derek Chauvin gets the justice that he deserves to be, implemented upon him, and that the family of George Floyd deserves justice for the way that he died. But I also am not going to accept the narrative that this is the best the Black community has to offer. For whatever reason, it has become fashionable over the last 5 or 6 years for us to turn criminals into heroes overnight. And it is something that I find to be despicable, and it is something that I refuse to stand by any longer, and I am not going to play a part in it, no matter how much pressure comes from Black liberals and Black conservatives as some token of people wanting you to believe that this is the only way you can be Black, is you have to say this was wrong and that this person was amazing. I won't do that. George Floyd was not an amazing person. And as soon as this video hit the internet, I did just basic searches. Everyone jumped on it and was looking at the police officer, and everyone agrees that the police officer was wrong, and the police officer has been arrested. So that is not the reason I'm not discussing that, is because that is not something that has been misconstrued in the media. He has been turned into the devil that he is, and there is no reason for us to harp on that any longer, because white Americans are not uplifting Derek Chauvin as a victim or pretending that he's an amazing human being. But George Floyd is being uplifted as an amazing human being. For those of you who have not yet seen the clips and did not pursue or wait for more clips to come out, first and foremost, George Floyd at the time of his arrest was high on fentanyl, and he was high on methamphetamine. This came back in both of his autopsy reports. If you pursue the 911 transcript, you can see the person describing somebody who is out of their mind high, and which is what made the person fearful, because he tried to use a bill that I guess was a fake bill to purchase something, and then he was outside acting weird, and they, in their police call, said that this person was obviously distorted and on drugs. When he is put into handcuffs and is put against the wall, a baggie of what looks to be like cocaine or it's a white baggie that he drops onto the floor, that you can see in an image. If you look up the clip, the media is refusing to circulate it. You can find it on Twitter. If you use DuckDuckGo and look up George Floyd baggie, you can watch the clip yourself with your own eyes. He had drugs on him at the time of his arrest.
Now, why would any of that matter? Even if he did he deserve a knee in his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds? Did he deserve a knee in his neck for the 2 minutes and 50 seconds that he lied there lifeless? I don't know why people want to stop talking about the police officer. She just said, oh, well, nobody's disputing that. Oh, people are disputing that. People are outraged right now that cops have to wear body cams. People are outraged right now that police officers have to be arrested. People are outraged right now that cops need to go through additional training. Like training is going to do something. When somebody training is not going to stop racism. If you are racist, you are racist. They can give you all the training in the world. That's not going to do anything. What Candace does not want to talk about is what Lisa Jackson had to say. She says, Candace, please don't forget to talk about the officer's record, how he had 19 complaints, and please go into detail. We'll be waiting to hear you do the research. Then somebody had the nerve to say, following up to that, these days we can complain about anyone, anything at any time in the workplace. I work at a 5-star hotel and my coworkers had complaints against me on the daily. Did you know that every doctor will be sued at least once in their lifetime? What the F does that have to do with anything? We're talking about a guy who was killed for a fake $20 bill. Someone also wrote about this, and we'll get into more of what she had to say. Where was Candace raised? What was her history? You have some people with black skin, but were raised in a different environment. These experiences are different for everybody. And I think what she is trying to say is maybe Candace has not experienced racism because she has surrounded herself in good environments, good neighborhoods. She's married to a white person. Maybe she's never experienced what it felt like to be a true African American, because everybody I know has experienced some injustice at the hands of police who are supposed to protect and serve. J. Pat says, his personal life doesn't matter. He was killed. The act is what has become of the martyr. That is the act. He is used as a vessel. God can use anyone as a beacon of hope. Yes, even George, even me. Girl, have a seat. Another person asked Candace, who gave you his background with so many details? And that's a good point. Just because you find this, because you didn't say where these resources came from, which you haven't heard. You're going to hear some of this in just a minute. She's about to read more of his rap sheet about, he was arrested this many times and he broke into somebody's house. Why is it every time that a person of color is beaten, gunned down, arrested, or something like that, we have to bring up the most atrocious, egregious things against him to justify why this person was killed? It wouldn't matter. It does not matter. Because at the time of the arrest, or at the time that they were detaining him, they didn't know anything about his rap sheet. They didn't know what was in his system. Everybody's talking about, he has cocaine and he has something in his system, in his bag. He had this going on. The dude was detained for using a fake $20 bill. That did not deserve a knee in his neck.
Now,
let's get back into what she had to say.
Barring all of that, nobody thinks that he should have died during this arrest, but what I find despicable to be is that everyone is pretending that this man lived a heroic lifestyle when he didn't, and I want to talk about what his lifestyle was leading up to this moment and why I refuse to accept the narrative that this person is a martyr or should be lifted up in the black community and that we should be buying t-shirts with his name on it, okay? So here we have, first and foremost, let's start from the bottom of his record. And by the way, I am not saying that if you have a record, you don't deserve a second chance. I think people get arrested, and some people can serve time in prison, and I believe in second chances, but I do draw the line when it comes to second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth chances. 1998, he spent 10 months in prison for theft with a firearm. That was the first prison stint that I could find on him. In 2002, he spent 8 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2004, just 2 years later, he spent another 10 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2005, he spent another 10 months in prison for having less than 1 gram of cocaine on him again. In 2007, and this was the biggest instant that I had that made me realize this was a horrible human being that I am not going to pretend was a good person. In 2005, a woman who was pregnant received a knock at the door, and she went to the door, and the person pretended to be someone that worked for the water department. So she opened her door and quickly realized that the person at her door did not work for the water department and attempted to slam it. At the moment that she was attempting to slam it, a Ford pulled up and another 5 men jumped out of the car, and one of which was George Floyd, came up to the door and they forced their way inside to her home. inside of her home. Mind you, this woman is pregnant. At that point, George Floyd took out a gun and pressed it to her stomach. She was screaming, begging for her life, and he put her inside of her living room and instructed one of his criminal friends that was with him to watch her and to make sure she didn't leave the living room. So he was playing guard while they ransacked her home looking for drugs and money. They did not find drugs. They ended up taking, I believe, her wallet and her cell phone. Fortunately for her, her neighbor observed what was going on and caught the license plate of the people as they pulled off and called 911. And when 911 was able to, they were able to track down the car of which George Floyd was the driver, and they arrested him. And 2 years later, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for that instance. Now, you can say the media is portraying it like he was just getting his life together after, being released in 2014 following that incident. He was just getting his life together and moved and was going to start afresh. I'd like to believe all of those things, and there's a gap, and he never got in trouble for 5 years until this incident when the police were called on him again. But you are defying common sense to believe that this person suddenly became an exemplary character but happened to be high on fentanyl and methamphetamine and trying to use a bill, a fake bill, to purchase something. And so, in my opinion, George Floyd was a criminal. He was a criminal. And just because he was a criminal doesn't mean he deserved to die at the knee of a police officer. But it does mean that I am not going to play a part of the broken black culture that always wants to martyr criminals, who wants to pretend they were these upstanding human beings that just wanted to help society, that just wanted to reach out and uplift society. And he has a rap sheet that is long, that is dangerous. He was an example of a violent criminal his entire life. Okay, up until the very last moment. Now, again, I want to be clear. This is not a defense for Derek Chauvin. No one that I have spoken to, no one in the news is defending Derek Chauvin. He is getting what he has coming to him. Okay, great. But why are we pretending that this criminal should be upheld as a citizen, as a martyr?
Well, I'll explain that to you. He is being upheld, as we just talked about just a minute ago, as a vessel, a beacon for all of us. The injustice that happens at the police hand over and over again, thousands of times over, before Emmett Till in the 50s and 60s. By now you've heard 100 names and examples of what police have done. That's why. So if you don't get that, and all the white comments I have seen about, oh, this took a lot of courage, you go girl, you should run for president or Congress, your experience with police are vastly different than mine in the African American community, possibly even the Latino or Asian community. I am telling you right now, there is nobody that I know who looks like me as a black person, other than Candace now, who has not experienced some kind of injustice, some time of aggression for a regular traffic stop or some kind of interaction. The common white folk you talk to, they're going to say the police are there to protect and serve. If you ask somebody in the African American community, I don't care what their salary is, they're going to probably have a totally different experience 90% of the time. There may be a few more Candace Owens out there, Candace Owens out there who say police are wonderful. They're there to protect and serve. And he's not getting a fair shot. Now, she did say that he should be, he's the devil, he should go to prison and justice will be served. But everybody wants to skip over that. Everybody keeps saying, oh, fine and good. So now why are we holding George Floyd as a martyr, as a hero? Because he's a beacon. It's not, again, for the 96,000 times everybody that is flooding my inbox and email, it's not about him personally. It's about the movement of him. Like the movement of Martin Luther King was bigger than Martin Luther King. If you go back to Martin Luther King's record, he's done a few things. He allegedly cheated on his wife. He smoked cigarettes. He was a human being. But it's not about that. It's about the actions he took for the justice for all of us and many other people. Thurgood Marshall, and on and on and on. So it's not about George Floyd and his rap sheet. That has nothing to do with it. The conversation is police brutality and injustice toward African Americans, people of color, black people, the Negro race. I don't know why we're having an issue with that. I don't know why that is up for debate. It's always something with the black community when people want to talk about us and injustice and inequality is, okay, yeah, but there are no buts to it. There is no other conversation. The conversation is police brutality is real toward black people. And it's so difficult for so many people to understand that are not of our race because they don't experience it. They don't see it. It's just like if you have $3,000 worth of grocery in your refrigerator, you don't understand hunger. You don't know what it feels like to be hungry. So if your lights are on, and they've always been on, you don't know what it's like to be in the dark. So miss me with that BS about, oh, well, he had a rap sheet. That's not the conversation, chick. White folks who don't get it yet, that's not the conversation. Everybody all of a sudden needs to be trained on this kind of stuff. You know what bad is. You were taught what good and bad was at 1 year old. You know what bad is. Don't act like all of a sudden you don't know what's going on in the world. I'm sorry this happened. This crap has been happening for hundreds of years. Now everybody wants to sit up and get a training catalog. Now everybody wants to wake up and let me hire more black folks. Let me send more money. Those things are great. Those are wonderful. But where y'all been? Because y'all are all responsible for what is taking place in America and what is currently and still taking place in America. Just because George Floyd's death has been highlighted doesn't mean this stuff is still not happening. There are cases right now still pending recently after his death. Y'all knocking people out, macing, pepper spraying, beating the shit out of people. Come on now. This ain't nothing new. And it's not going to change overnight. And when you have people like Candace out there getting 87 million views and spewing this kind of hate, because you're not attacking George, sis, you're attacking the entire movement.
Black America, a martyr for a fake narrative, by the way. Police brutality, racially motivated police brutality is a myth, okay? So let's get into that. Not only are we using this death, right, and allowing it to cause these riots and protests, pretending this was some upstanding citizen in the black community who was tackled down and killed for no reason, right? Not only are we allowing it to inspire riots in which black people are dying, in which actual upstanding black citizens are dying. Case in point, I'm sure you guys have all now seen David, the sheriff that just was shot and killed because he was trying to protect a pawn shop. Please look him up if you haven't seen it. I'm blanking on his last name. His first name is David, who was shot and killed for trying to protect a pawn shop from looters. An upstanding citizen, an actual head of a police. He was the head of a police his entire life, 77 years old, did everything right? So we now have to kill upstanding black citizens because a non-upstanding black citizen, a career black criminal, died. Now, did he deserve to die in that manner? No. I can't say it enough. No, he didn't deserve to die in that manner. But I will be damned if the rest of us upstanding black citizens have to suffer because of this incident that rarely ever happens in America. So here are some numbers for you people that are still believing that police brutality is a real, racially motivated police brutality is a real thing. First and foremost, okay, you have a 25% higher chance as a violent white criminal of dying at the hands of a police officer than you do as a black criminal. Last year, a total of 9 unarmed black men were killed by police officers and 19 white men were killed by police officers. For those of you that aren't good at mathematics, right, you might be thinking, oh, but Candace, white people represent 60% of the population and black people represent just 13% of the population. It doesn't matter what percentage of the population you represent. It matters what percentage of the violent criminal community you represent. And unfortunately, black community commits a disproportionate amount of crimes compared to the white community. Let me tell you, 6% of the population, right, black men, 6% of the population account for 44% of all murders in this country, according to 2018 statistics. That is what you call a gap. And yet white people who represent 60% of the population, we represent 13, black men are 6%, only represent 50% of all the murders, right? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. A 6-point variation in a community where we are extreme minorities. We commit 50% of all violent offenses, evenly split, and we're only 13% of the population, okay? So we have a lot more encounters with police officers. And don't say the police officers are coming around because we're black. I'm talking about violent criminals. I'm talking about murder. 44% of murders, okay? You want to talk about real statistics? The police officers have way more to be fearful of in the black community than the other way around, okay? We commit, on average, a police officer is 18 and a half times more likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around, okay? So this entire narrative is
You got to clearly call bullshit on that. We have more interactions because we are harassed more times. Whether you're an upstanding citizen or in some type of petty activity. So don't tell me that more police are being, they have a chance of being murdered by us or bad interactions by us. Yeah, because we're being targeted. At some point, you have to defend yourself. You're not going to tell me about these statistics that are probably written by a police captain fraudulently or forged that we are more dangerous toward police than they are toward us. If they had not targeted us, messed with us, abused us, or beat us, they wouldn't have those types of interactions. You're not going to tell me when you see hundreds of white people that are armed run into a state house and talking about they want to be able to have their hair pressed and curled and their nails done and their feet massaged or give me death. But nothing happens to those. All we want to do, Candace, is live. And until you have the same interaction as many as my brothers and sisters have had, Candace, I don't care about your damn stats. They are absolutely wrong. They are forged. They are as fake as the $20 bill that George Floyd attempted to use and lost his life over. You get that, sis? So I don't care about these stats that police have to be scared of us. They're scared of our blackness because they might get killed. No. As you just stated, there are more crimes committed by white people because there are more white people. But you do know what? The stuff that they do, they get away with. The little stuff that we do, we don't get away with. Of course we're going to have more interactions because we're targeted more.
Complete smoke and mirrors. It's all made up. It's just election fodder. It's white versus black because it's an election year, not because black Americans are suffering at the hands of police officers more than white Americans. Do some police officers do the wrong thing? Yes. I don't think there's anybody in the world who has not encountered a police officer and thought this person is an absolute jerk who is power tripping, whether you are black or white. We know they exist. And we know they're always going to exist, by the way, because they're human beings. And sometimes human beings suck. In fact, if you want to attack a community for accidental slayings or brutality, did you know that doctors accidentally kill 250,000 people every year because of mistakes? Did you know that there's been doctors that have been arrested for being serial killers that just were killing people because they wanted to? Do we protest and boycott doctors? Do we assume all doctors are horrible human beings because some doctors are? Or do we realize that society is not perfectible? People suck in every profession. It is no excuse to paint society with a broad brush. It is certainly no excuse to accept a Democrat narrative, okay, that black people are being disproportionately hunted down by police officers because of the color of their skin. You want to know the best way to avoid not being brutalized by a police officer is to limit the amount of encounters you need to have with them, especially.
You cannot limit the amount of encounters you have with them because they will pull you over or harass you for no reason. I'm telling you, like you, Candace, I went to college too. I did everything right. No weed, no drugs in my system. I went to school every single day. I did everything I was told to do, and I was still drug out of a car and told, I will blow your effing head off if you move. It was for a traffic violation. Then he searched my car for 20 minutes while I was on my knees saying, oh, I thought you had weed in there. Why would you think I had weed in my car? What gave you any indication? I was also pulled over in a full suit. What are you doing in these parts? What are you doing in this neighborhood? Oh, I'm going to work. Don't tell me to limit my encounters or interactions with police when I am trailed going into Target. when I am trailed going into Macy or J.C. Penney? How do we limit that, Candace? Oh, I don't know. Maybe put on a white face? I don't know.
When it comes to violent crimes, okay? I am not going to stand for this continual bottom-feeding narrative of us martyring people that have had 5, 6, 7 stints in prison and then pretending they were upstanding heroes to our community. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Excuse my language. It's absolute bullshit. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of having to play pretend. I'm tired of sitting here and being called a coon or an Uncle Tom because I won't play this bottom-feeding game with you. If you want to hang up posters of criminals on your wall and talk about them as your martyrs, do it. Do it. You can do it. Kobe Bryant was my idol, okay? I'll keep a photo of Kobe Bryant. You can keep one of George Floyd and pretend he was an upstanding human being that just once or twice put a gun across a pregnant woman's belly. Could you imagine that woman right now? That black woman, by the way, right? Watching everybody pretend this person was an upstanding human being who just at the age of 42 and 5 prison stints was going to get his life together. I mean, it's embarrassing. We are embarrassing in that regard, right? This is why we have a cycle and a toxic culture, because nobody wants to tell the truth in Black America. It's so easy to be a victim. It's so easy to ask white people to bow down and apologize and do all these things for us. It's crap. It's crap. It's a lie. It's a farce. Our biggest problem is us, okay? It's why we don't talk about it when black on black crime happens. It's why we don't talk about it when 40 black people are killed in one weekend during Memorial Weekend in Chicago. We don't want to talk about any of that stuff. We don't want to talk about...
Oh, correction. We do talk about it. We do know we have a problem inside of our own community, and we do march, we protest, and we have talked about it. There are a lot of programs about it. It's a lot of people trying to clean up neighborhoods right now. But let's think about why we get to that situation, Candace, when we are at a disadvantage. I'm so sick of the narrative of pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps when we've never been given a pair of boots. We don't even own a pair of boots. We can't pull ourselves up by any bootstraps. We can't help ourselves because we're always being put down. You do know this is systematic, right? We are always being held to be oppressed. We're always giving the short end of the stick, Candace. That's why things in those types of communities happen. So before you go spewing your hate or talking about we don't want to talk about ourselves, we're not the problem. We've been created to be made the problem. We were set up to fail. So let's remember, like I said before, this world was designed for white people, built by black people. Nothing was ever put in place for us other than to be service workers or mamies or clean your effing house or shine your effing shoes or wash your effing car. Tanisha Neely says she doesn't speak for me and I cannot identify with her position at all. She can read all the black books she wants, but it is very apparent that she is extremely disconnected from how the majority of black people's experience in America is. She goes on to say, if she really believes that protesting police brutality against black bodies is creating or catering to the lowest common denominator in our community, if the police only brutalizes criminals or attacks criminals, and even then, it's not okay. So what Tanisha is saying is, even if they shot or went after criminals or killed them, it is not okay. Just because he had a 5-page rap sheet, if he had a fake $20 bill, did he deserve to die? I think we all know the answer to that. Tanisha goes on to say, I don't care what the Jews and other minorities in America do. I will continue to advocate for all black lives, criminals included, until all lives really matter. What part of you don't get to execute black people in the streets without due process? No matter what you think you've done or who you are, this is not justice. Don't care. I agree with Tanisha. I don't care. You can't tell me you can be out in the streets and you did something bad and then you deserve to die. And then we don't want to talk about it. I don't understand that. That is, again, the wrong conversation. The conversation is, Candace, you don't kill people. You don't do it. Police officers, the ones who are out doing this stuff, and there are a lot of you, you don't get to take somebody's life. You didn't put breath in them. You don't get to take breath out of them. You are not God. That little funky badge you got after 4 months of training does not make you God, okay? And I'm tired of hearing about all these good cops. If there were so many good cops, why didn't these videos always see people standing around doing anything while black people are getting their asses beat and kicked? That doesn't make you a good cop because you're not physically doing it, but you are allowing it to happen. It's ridiculous. I don't get it. J. Pat says, if he was always an upstanding citizen, then all the things that are happening would be fine. You are a joke, coon. So she knows she's been called a coon, but she doesn't care about that. She is pandering to the Fox News crowd. She is pandering for views and likes. She is pandering to raise more money for her causes and stuff like that. That's what she cares about. She doesn't care how dangerous she really is. Someone says, Candace, newsflash, you are the house nigger of the 21st century. Go ahead, girl. Keep making the masters happy.
Baltimore, you don't want to talk about New Jersey, you don't want to talk about any of these places where black people are being slaughtered by other blacks, because that would mean that we had to be personally accountable, right? That would mean personal responsibility. We don't do personal responsibility in our community. We don't do it. We blame white people, right? We only point a camera to white people when they do something, even though we do it at a way higher rate to ourselves, right? We celebrate our drug dealers. We're the only community, right, that would ever create hashtags to free people from prison because they committed crimes, like free Meek Mill, free this rapper, free this rapper. How hard is it to not spend multiple times in prison? How difficult is that? Is that too hard for us? Is that way too high of a mountain for us to scale, to do the right thing, to be upstanding citizens? That is the call to action that I have for Black America with Brexit. Like, why do we keep fulfilling this narrative? What do you think the perception of us, by the way, is on the outside? You ever look at the comments? You ever go into like an anonymous blog and see what people say? Oh, just black people being black people. I see those racist comments. Oh, just black people got to riot. Black people got to be black people. You know how they are. Oh, just black people being ignorant. That is the perception when people get to be anonymous and talk about us. That's what they think about us, right? They think that we are the kind of people that will forever uphold criminals as the martyrs of our society, that we will never take account for the things that we do wrong, right? That we don't have it within us to educate ourselves to get ahead. And that for those of us that actually do it, well, we get called coons, right? You got
No, you get called a coon because you make everything about black people bad, the lowest common denominator, trash. You just said we don't hold ourselves accountable. That is the furthest thing from the truth. We're probably more hard on our own community than any other culture in American history. Yet, we're still getting treated the worst by every single other culture. I don't know how anybody could ever think in their right mind we don't hold ourselves to a higher standard or hold ourselves accountable. We do things right and all things right and live by the book, and we still get treated like trash in these streets. We don't uphold anything. We don't right anybody's wrongdoing. It is so not about George Floyd's rap sheet. It's about the injustice that was caused against him, that I've said the 15th time now. I just don't understand how people go on these platforms and, they get in these particular circles of power, or which they feel is power because they have all white friends, or they get to live in great suburbs, or get these nice jobs and get to live in certain places. And then they feel like they're above the black community. It happens all the time. But no, that's why you're called a coon, sis. You're not called a coon because you're trying to be an upstanding citizen and follow the laws. That's not why you're being called a coon.
Lisa Rice, she's a coon. Larry Elder, he's a coon. Dr. Ben Carson, brain surgeon, first ever to perform the surgery of splitting twins that are connected by the head. He's a coon, right? What a loser he is. What a stupid guy he is. Kanye West says he's not going to be told to do it because of the color of his skin. He's a coon. He's lost. He's in the sunken place. The sunken place. That's where we all are, right? Because we demand more and we will get more out of this society because we're going to get ahead, right? That's what's going to happen. We're going to get ahead. Black conservatives get ahead because we don't subscribe to this narrative. Because you're not going to catch me outside trying to grab a TV pretending that it's because a martyr named George Floyd got killed. Okay? I'm a big believer that no matter what color you are, you do stupid things, you win stupid prizes. Okay? We have to do better. We have to teach our kids better, or we're not going to get ahead, right? Anyways, this is just a rant because I have been feeling super annoyed at these depictions in society. I have no apologies here to make. George Floyd is not my martyr. He can be yours. That's all.
Wow, Candace. That's all I can say. But that is typical Candace. Just want to remind you that post got 87 million views. You would think somebody with a platform as large as hers would be trying to do something other than tear down a movement. Because that's essentially what she's doing. So she says she wants to be this upstanding citizen, but she is just the opposite of what she's attempting or what she claims that she wants to do. You, people, Candace, like you, are part of the problem. You are doing nothing to help the African American race. You are doing exactly what you're saying black people do to each other, tearing us down. You are more dangerous, Candace, than somebody with an AK-47 in the hood in Chicago. You are more dangerous than that. She is a disgusting person. I won't even give her the satisfaction of being called a coon. She's just downright disgusting. And when she gets her day with the KKK, then she will understand what it feels like to be black in America. That's what she needs to see. Because obviously, she still does not get it. Maybe she needs that training catalog that everybody wants to give to white America so they're going through. Maybe that's what she needs. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm lost. I'm lost because she is just dangerous. The platform she has, and she does nothing with it but spew hate against African Americans. All she has on this post is a bunch of white racist people that don't even really like her. Because if she gets out of line one time and says she supports any of these movements, oh, watch how they turn against her. Watch how she will be attacked. Watch what happens to her life. She will lose that fairy tale life she has. She will lose that white husband she has. I want to remind everyone out here, and specifically Candace Owens, nobody said he was perfect. Nobody is celebrating him. What they're celebrating is and upholding is the injustice. He's being used as a martyr for that reason. He's being used as a vessel for that reason. Understand that. Nobody gives a damn about looting. Nobody gives a damn about his rap sheet. Nobody said he was perfect. That is not the message. The message is the injustice that is continuing to be held against us. The knee is still in the neck of black America. Listen, I'm Stephion. You can always be a part of the conversation on all social media platforms. I'll tell you that. You know what they all are by now. They're in the bio. They're in the link. Join in on the conversation anytime. If you got any more or want to talk more or want to be on the show, hit us up at kingsofthevillage@yahoo.com. I am Stephion. We're going to return in just 2 days with a very special guest. It's a young brother running for District 24 in Missouri. He is a passionate young man who is fired up about change and real change. He could be the next big thing, y'all. Join us next time for episode 14.